If things are heating up around your neck of the woods, then you might be thinking, is it time to hit the beach, or do I even want to go through all the trouble? If you're thinking the latter, I don't want to go to the beach, but I want to feel like I'm at the beach, then today's cookie set is just for you. It is a beach-themed cookie set. We are going to be making 3 beginner beach cookies. The first one being a wave, the second one being a sand dollar, and the third one being a beach ball. We're going to be using just 3 colors, 1 consistency, and it's all going to be focused around the color blue, because what makes you think of the beach more than blue, the color of the ocean? Let's get into it. Let's go through our supplies first. The supplies you're going to need, starting with sugar cookies and royal icing. You can find free recipes for both of those in the description down below. Next, you're going to need blue food coloring. Next is white food coloring. This is optional, but I do highly recommend adding white food coloring to your royal icing just when you're mixing it all together. It really makes it a crisper white to decorate with. 3 tipless piping bags, a paper towel, a scribe or a toothpick, 1 to 3 mixing bowls, and a spatula. This is for creating the consistency and mixing the colors for your icing. I like to use 3 bowls. It just helps me divide my icing better. Lastly, an edible pen and a paintbrush. Again, these are optional. I'm going to show you how to not use an edible pen and use an edible pen, and the paintbrush is completely optional. Before we can decorate anything, we have to mix up our royal icing. So I have mine right here. It's a double batch, so don't worry if yours does not fill up your mixing bowl quite as much. We need to mix the right consistency icing to decorate our cookies with. And so we're going to use a 20 to 15 second icing. And what that means is that it will hold an edge, so we don't need a line or a flood. You might have seen those elsewhere. It'll hold an edge, but it also will help flood and decorate your entire cookie. So let's go and divvy up our icing, as well as use our blue food coloring to decorate our icing. We are only going to need to make a light blue and a darker blue color, and then we're also going to go ahead and use the white. Starting with the white royal icing, I've divvied it up, and I'm just going to put maybe a tablespoon or half a tablespoon in here, and I'm looking to create a hybrid consistency. This is a 15 to 20 second consistency icing. That means when it falls off the spatula, it kind of looks like Elmer's glue consistency, but really what it means is that when I run my spatula through the icing, it takes about 15 to 20 seconds to settle. And so here we go. I've reached that just about with this white icing. And so we're going to move on to the blue. I'm going to do 1 drop of blue food coloring. Honestly, you could do a little bit less than that. And add in some water. I like to add water in with the food coloring just to get that mixing started. And this is my least favorite part. Mixing, mixing, mixing. Adding water so that I can get the right consistency. I do recommend you add a little bit of water at a time, because if you add too much, it's going to be too runny, and you're going to either need to add more of your royal icing to mix in or powdered sugar just to stiffen up your icing. And you can see I ran my spatula through there, right consistency. Next, we're going to do the dark blue, and I'm going to do 3 drops of blue food coloring. If you are using just 1 bowl to mix all of your colors, you would do it in these steps, starting with your white, then your light blue, and then your dark blue, because the color is getting darker each step of the way, and you wouldn't have to rinse your mixing bowl. I didn't think this was quite blue enough, so I added another drop. It can be really hard to get deep, rich colors, so I really recommend not adding too much food coloring. If you're not noticing a difference in your color, don't add any more food coloring because you can use too much. Now let's bag up all of our icing. They all follow the same exact steps. I put my piping bag in a cup, and then I just dump in all of my icing. I make sure I don't fill it up too high, so I still have room to tie off the bag at the end. And I really like using a cup because I can really scrape out all of these extra bits that are in my bowl. I'm getting to use all of the icing that I very carefully mixed and made the right color. I scrape down the edges a little bit and then twist, twist, twist. I find it easier if I twist all the way to the end of the bag to be able to tie the knot so I don't have all these little stragglers at the end. Make sure you tie that knot nice and tight so that your piping bag is all set. Okay, our colors are bagged and we are ready to go. Next step we want to take is to make sure to set out our cookie decorating area, and then we will cut the tips of our piping bags and get going. When setting up your decorating space, make sure you have your sugar cookies nearby. I like setting down a piece of parchment paper, which you can directly decorate on, and then have my paper towel, scribe, scissors. And now we're ready to cut the ends of our piping bag. So I like to get it really, really straight on the end. I typically cut it with the seam straight up, facing me, so I can get it as straight as possible, because a straight cut piping bag tip means that you will have a very good line to pipe with. If you don't cut it straight, then your line can curl at the end and it can be really hard. And so mine is a little too thin. I want a little bit more. It's curling a little bit. So I'm coming back and just taking my time, making sure that is straight across. And now I can start decorating. The first cookie we're going to do today is the beach ball cookie, and I'm showing this to you in real time. I'm using my scribe to draw the template of what I want the beach ball to be. So first is I need that little circle in the middle, and then I'm gonna draw, I believe, 5 lines. This is the same struggle I had while I was filming this video, because we need 6 sections. So 5 lines sounds right. It's really hard to see them. I thought that would make it really hard to decorate this cookie, but in person, it's not quite as difficult to see all of the lines. And frankly, if the lines are a little fudgy, that's okay. So once you have all of your lines, I do like to wipe off the cookie. I did not here, and I wish I did. You're gonna come in with your blue. Now you can choose to do light blue or dark blue here. Really doesn't matter. And you're gonna make that circle, that initial circle we started with the scribe, and then you're gonna fill in every other section. And I'm just outlining it and then filling it in. And I'm gonna come back with my scribe at the end and make sure everything's leveling out. And I'm just gonna keep repeating that step. This cookie, I recommend starting with doing all your blue outlines and then going and doing the rest of your cookies and then coming back to it. Can you do the white and the blue at the same time? You absolutely can. I just think it looks a little bit more dimensional when you come in and let it dry a little bit and form some edges before you go back in with the white. Kind of like how a beach ball looks, right? So I'm almost done. Come in with my scribe here, and I'm just gonna make sure that everything's filling in, that it's level. It actually leveled out really nicely on its own. That's why we like this consistency. See, I let it dry. It's a little duller. I'm coming back with this white, and I'm just, again, outlining and then filling in. Now, if you wanted to stop and use your scribe each of these times, you 100% can. I just didn't find it necessary. Now we're gonna leave this little dot in the middle to last. Again, we wanna let this cookie just dry as much as possible. I was very impatient. I did not wanna let it dry after the white. I was like, I am done decorating cookies today. Let's move on with my life. Now the dot in the middle, you can decide to use the same blue, the different color blue, or the white. My favorite design was doing the white dot in the middle, and that's what I do here. Yep, that's what I do here. And I just really heavy-handed piped that in. Next, we're moving on to the seashell, the sand dollar, and this honestly ended up being one of the more difficult cookies in the set. I cannot tell you how many cookies I scraped off so that I could get this right. I do think this is a cookie much easier to outline with a edible pen, and I recommend drawing things a little bit bigger than you normally would, because we're gonna leave some negative space on this cookie. Everywhere inside those circles, those loops, we want to stay plain cookie. And that was really the hardest part for me, because I'm a lazy decorator. So I kind of speed through things, and I don't give things the space they need. But I'm outlining all of those spots right now. And again, I'm trying to almost outline just on the outside of the lines, because I had so many cookies fill in, and you can see that one little blobby dot right towards the bottom. That almost fills it in at the end. And I'm not going to go through and pipe in around all of those sections. I'm just kind of doing blobs. And it's because I learned if I went in and piped all those sections, all of my negative space would disappear, because this icing is just so good at filling in empty spaces. So your scribe is so necessary to come in and get it into all of those little nooks and crannies and fill in your cookie. Now, I have to say, if you're looking at this and being like, this looks nothing like a shell, you would not be alone. I felt that way. So it makes this part after you fill in what I think is pretty necessary to this cookie, but you can take it or leave it if you want. So we're going to let this dry just like those beach balls, so that it can create a nice kind of crust over the icing. And I'm going to come back. You can see it's dry, and I'm just going to do some blobby icing on top. We're not going to leave it. This is where we come in with the brush, and very lightly, because this cookie is not fully dry. We very lightly are spreading it around and just creating a texture. Now, we don't want it to get into those negative spaces, those empty cookie pieces. We just want it to sit on the white. And again, think of a shell that you've held in your hand. It's not completely smooth to the touch on the outside. It's got that texture. And so I think that's what really finishes off this cookie very nicely. Now, I put a little bit too much icing on top, and so I'm using my brush to kind of wipe some off, because you really don't need too much here. And if you break through your crust, it's fine. Your cookie will still look very cool. This last one ended up being my absolute favorite, probably one of my favorite cookies of the year, if I'm being honest, and it is a wave. We again are going to have some negative space on this cookie, which means you could take just a bite of cookie with no icing, and we're just doing a kind of little loopy wave. I'm carving it out with my scribe. You could use the edible pen here. And then I'm just gonna draw 2 lines in my wave so I can delineate between my dark, light blue, and white. So I'm gonna start with my dark blue at the bottom. It's really not gonna look like much right now, and that's okay. And we're filling it in. We wanna just stay inside the lines, but that's pretty much the only rule here. And you might even want to put a little bit extra dark blue in the bottom, because you're going to be pulling it through the cookie. This will make sense in 1 minute. Next, you use your lighter blue. You put that right in that middle section, using my scribe to fill it in. And then last, we have this white that'll finish the curve of our wave. Now, right now, it's not going to look really like a wave. And that's okay, because we're going to use our scribe to kind of clean it up. Clean it up doesn't really sound right. We're going to use our scribe to blend our colors together more like, and we're just dragging the scribe through. I was being careful and wiping off my scribe every time, but then I also kind of liked the look of going back and getting the white into the darker part. And so I got, again, lazy cookie edition. I got lazy about cleaning it off because the colors blending together looked really cool. I also thought I needed to extend the blue part a little bit more. And so I'm just dragging that dark blue up, and we're mixing it into the white. There's no right or wrong here. You're just blending until you think it looks good. This is another cookie with an optional step at the end, where you can let it dry. The theme of this set, apparently, have some patience. Let your cookie dry a little bit. And you can come back once it's dry a little bit with a little bit of white in your brush and just give a little texture to the end of that wave, like a wave would typically look like. My husband didn't really care for this. I thought it was cool, but I didn't think it was necessary. So if you want to skip this step, that is totally okay. You would not be wrong for doing that, but I did think it added a little bit of texture to a fun cookie. After all that decorating, do you feel like you're at the beach? or still in your kitchen. I am super happy with how these beginner beach themed cookies turned out. My favorite by far is the wave, and I don't think I have a preference of putting the extra white on the end over the top or not. And then surprise, the original design that I put together for this beach ball was dark and then the light blue dot in the middle, and I do think it looks really cute, but I did a kind of rogue decision of doing a white dot in the middle, and this one is actually my favorite. And I thought I would really liked the sand dollar, but when it doesn't have the texture, I think it kind of falls a little flat. When it does have the texture, I think it really pops. So let me know which is your favorite cookie design. Put that down in the comments, and be sure to like this post if you enjoyed following along, and be sure to subscribe so that you can get the next beginner basic cookie design. Don't forget that down below you can click on the link and get the downloadable PDF guide that you can print off or just follow along. My name is Cami Bird. I'm the creator of Iced.Kitchen, and I'll catch you next time.